This is our third presentation. Our district has been working with our board and our employees and community on the budget really since December. We have worked over the course of the last several weeks to reduce the amount of the proposed budget, as well as reduce the tax impact on our local community. In addition, New York State Legislature and the governor finalized the state budget just a few days ago, and we did receive a small increase in additional school aid, including a fairly good increase in pre-K, which is good because we are continuing to move forward with expanded pre-K. Tonight in the presentation, I hope to reiterate some of our district's accomplishments and share with you that the budget on the spending side and on the revenue side reflects the priorities of the board to continue the progress that we have made to ensure that all of our students are academically successful and highly engaged, not only in the classroom, but in extracurricular activities. There are some budget revisions that have been made just over the course of the last week to 10 days. We will share those revisions and put you back to where we were just a week to 2 weeks ago. We have revised our revenue projections, our expenditure projections. We're going to talk about the proposal to purchase 8 additional buses out of our transportation reserve. We are recommending that the board establish a capital reserve, which will be a mechanism to set aside money approved by the board and approved by the voters to reduce the local taxpayer share of future capital projects, which typically involve borrowing money and paying that money out over a 15-year period and receiving state building aid. The difference between the building aid received and the amount of the project typically is filled by the local taxpayer in the annual budget in terms of the principal and interest. We're going to propose that we start to set aside monies to bring that local portion of the taxpayer's responsibility for future capital projects down. Additionally, we are going to summarize the propositions that our voters will see in just a few weeks on the date at which the budget is voted on in New York State and the board election. So we've continued to highlight the academic success of our students. Most recently, the Goff Middle School 8th grade band was recognized through the New York State School Music Association, receiving a gold award rating. So congratulations to Mr. Bresnahan, as well as the 8th graders for their outstanding performance. Additionally, we have many students who participate in career and technical education programs at our Questar BOCES. The number of students that have participated in these programs over the last several years has increased. There is a competition called Skills USA, at which our students who are participating in career and technical education get a chance to demonstrate their skills in a competitive environment. And we had several medal winners at this year's Skills USA regional competition, which reflects the quality of the career and technical education programs that our students are involved in at Questar and the dedication and the skill of those students. Additionally, we have shared with the board that we are utilizing the resources of the federal grants. We have hired additional early intervention specialists. We have a teacher on assignment coordinating the response to intervention program, and we have adopted new assessments to make sure that as our kids have bounced back from the pandemic, coming back into full in-person learning, that we are measuring their reading and math progress. Our students at the mid-year assessment are doing very well, with higher percentages of students reading at or above grade level in reading and math. Additionally, our math department each year at our high school supports Pi Day, which is really just a celebration of math and the accomplishments of both the department and our students. So we build a culture around academic success for our kids, regardless of what types of programs and courses they want to receive. And our budget reflects the spending necessary to continue to support that success. Our community, we're very proud of our community, how our community works together not only to support what our students are doing in the school, but also what our community needs. Recently, we had a very successful event called Stuff a Bus for Ukraine. It was well attended by a number of students at Goff Middle School. We had a number of parents that volunteered and supported. We had teachers that were there to coordinate, working particularly with the student council. I'll be reading a letter later on from the Ukrainian church, the St. Nicholas Ukrainian Church, of thanks that I received today. And we even had a special guest. The governor showed up with her husband to make a donation that came to a surprise, as a surprise to us, and made it really a nice event. Additionally, our students have volunteered at the Nassau Resource Center, baking cookies, and we continue to have programs that ensure that anyone in our community that is in need of food can receive that, and many of our students are involved in donating canned goods, and we had a Super Bowl food drive. These are just small examples of hundreds of activities that go on each year in which our students, our employees, our parents, our families work together not only to do what's required in the school district, to do what's necessary and needed within the community. So I want to talk about where we were at with our budget on March 23rd. At March 23rd, we were proposing a budget of about $106 million. We've been able to reduce that budget to $104.8 million. That reduction will also include a reduction in the tax levy. So for the second year in a row, we are able to maintain, add a few programs, and keep our tax levy at a 0% increase with a proposed budget of $104.8 million. The estimated tax levy back in March was 2.52. I want to thank Linda Wager for working through the budget to do what we could to be more efficient within the budget, to ensure that our estimates were accurate, looking at past year's expenditures and trends, and to bring that budget down to only a 1.26% increase. So our budget this year to next year is only going up 1.26%, and our tax levy will not change at all. It's a 0% tax increase. On the revenue side, we, in addition to receiving more aid this year in terms of our foundation aid, we are holding the taxes at the level that they were at this year. We received more than $6.6 million in payment in lieu of taxes agreements, which are approved by the Rensselaer County Industrial Development Agency. Some of the ones that are more known in the community are the pilots associated with Regeneron, where companies, in order to improve either job creation or job retention, are on a plan to provide payments to our school district, to our towns, and our county. It's an abatement of taxes, but it is also a revenue stream for the district. Our state aid has increased. Our federal revenues, which includes some of the reimbursement we receive for our health insurance for employees who are eligible for Medicare. And we also are projecting an appropriation of $6.8 million in fund balance to keep the tax levy at zero for next year. On the expenditure side of the budget, at each meeting, I have said that approximately between 75 and 80% of a school district budget is made up of the salaries and benefits of our employees. We also budget for equipment, contractual expenses, supplies, software, and hardware. One of the things we were able to do within our budget this year is pay for some items because we have an estimate that our fund balance will be in a favorable position. So we're buying some equipment out of this year's budget which reduces the budget for next year. And we'll talk about that when we get to that slide. Additionally, we want to make sure that we have safe, efficient buses. We're proposing to purchase 3 66-passenger buses, 2 wheelchair buses, and 3 35-passenger buses, all out of the reserve. Those are monies that have been authorized by the community, set aside through approval of our board. We have a proposition on the ballot asking the community to approve taking about $752,000 out of the reserve to buy these 8 buses. We trade in our higher mileage, older buses, and there's a fleet replacement schedule that is available for anyone to see on our website. The capital reserve is a new item for our board and for our community. The reserve authorizes the district to set aside monies for various types of expenses, including construction, reconstruction, equipping the school buildings and facilities. So when we go out to the voters and we ask the voters to approve our next capital project, if we have monies that are sitting in a reserve, the board and the community can approve utilizing those monies in a reserve to defray the local share costs of the project. So that, again, functions similar to the transportation reserve, and it reduces our need to borrow money because we've had that money set aside. We can only fund the capital reserve up to a total of $5 million over a 10-year period. That doesn't mean that we're going to have $5 million at the end of this year or even next year or the following year to fund it. When we have monies available, subject to approval of the board, we can put those monies in at the end of the year when we adjust and look at all of our reserves, which is an annual process that typically occurs in August, Linda, sometimes in September, sometimes later.
June. In June we'll start to do that.
Okay. Funding for the reserve has to be approved by the Board of Education. Funding for the reserve has to be approved by the voters. There will be 3 propositions on the ballot: a proposed operating budget of $104.8 million, the purchase of the buses out of the reserve, and the establishment of the capital reserve. And there are 3 vacant board seats up for election, and the timeline for board candidates to submit their petitions is April 18th. So here we are on April 12th. I will be recommending the $104.8 million budget to the board, which includes a 0% increase in the tax levy. We will ask the board to approve that this evening, and then we will be talking with various groups, including employee groups, parents, towns, PTOs, about the budget over the next several weeks, faculty and staff meetings, and then we will have a public hearing on the budget on May 4th, and the budget vote and board election is on May 17th. So that concludes the presentation. There have been 3 presentations kind of building up to this with the detail. The highlights are we are maintaining all of our programs. We're adding some supports that have been talked about at previous meetings. We're buying some equipment this year, which reduced the budget for next year. We're buying some textbooks this year that will reduce the budget for next year. And we think it's a solid budget and that it maintains all of our programs for students, lower than average class sizes in accordance with our policy, all of the elective courses, extracurricular activities, including an additional cross-country offering, are included within this budget at a 0% increase to the tax levy.
Great.
And I'll take any questions from the board at this time.
Any questions or comments, board members?
Jeff, I just wanted to say that I give kudos to Linda and everybody in the school district to get it to this point. I mean, given what we are as a society and the economy that we have, this is the best news we can we can ask for. And I think everybody realizes it's not going to continue forever. We've been very good the last few years on the tax levy and the increase. But to do this without hurting any kind of programs, actually enhancing some it's just an amazing outcome that the community will hopefully come out and support 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Anyone else? John?
Just an overall comment, Jeff. Thank you. I was concerned about this year's budget and the fact that we are maintaining a good fiscal plan overall and projections without losing programming is just very appreciated by the community. So I am supporting this effort wholeheartedly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? Just also echo the comments that were made this evening. I know that the district has always been very conservative in terms of its budgeting, making sure that very aware of the impact on the taxpayers, the employees, the students, and try to deliver the best budget we can within and live within our means, but also utilizing the things that we put aside in other years, the reserves that we have. And we're going to see the next presentation around the current fund balance projections and things that do help the district as it plans, as John said, for the long range financial picture of the district, to smooth those things out, that the spikes that could happen in a difficult economy like we're experiencing right now. We did get some additional aid, I think, that came through in this last budget for our pre-K and some other areas, some minor reductions in a few small areas. But we think that this budget will be something that we can put forth to the taxpayers. And we do appreciate that the work that went into looking at each line item. You know, one of the things that Jeff and I and Linda and I did, we talked about this budget. We talked about every line and making sure that we look at everything that's in the budget. Because one of the things I remember Mark always saying is when you have a budget of this size and the size of the different items that we have, small dollars add up to big dollars. And if you look at all those small dollars, in the end, it can save a lot of money. And it can be something that really helps us reduce that levy and impact on the taxpayers. And of course, it's also appreciated that the state aid was increased for the district. Much deserved after a lot of years of not getting our fair share, in my opinion. So thank you to the team.